All right, thanks everyone for coming. So my name is Sara Robinson, and I'm going to be talking to you guys about spalted wood. Just real quick though, how many of you actually know what spalted wood is?
Nobody.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Fantastic. I'm going to blow your mind. So, let's see if I can figure out how to work this. Yay. So, the big question is, before we can get into it, what is spalting? So spalting is pretty broadly defined as any color on wood, and color's a big theme today, right? So this is a perfect presentation. Any color on wood caused by a fungus. But it can't just be color that sits on the top of wood. It has to be color that goes into wood. So a lot of the airborne molds that you might commonly think of don't count. It's penetrating colors. So if you look on the picture here, this is a piece of maple. And it's showing all three types of spalting. It's showing color, so that blue-green color, that's done by this fungus here called Elf's Cup. It's got those black lines, those are called zone lines, and they're where two fungi meet up and create a border to protect their resources. So it's like a wall that says, no, this is my food, you don't touch my food. And if we go back to the beginning photo, there's also the decay, the white rot, that if you work in wood preservation at all, I'm sure you don't like. We like it in spalting at very early stages. So it lightens the wood and allows for a lot of color differential. So on this piece here, you can actually see everything. We've got that blue-green color, a red, a yellow, the whitened areas from white rot, and then the zones, the black zones that delineate them. And this is all done by fungi. So, spalted wood has been used since at least the 1400s for woodcraft. And it had a very special place in woodcraft, especially that gorgeous blue-green color that comes from Elf's Cup. It was used heavily because that color couldn't be synthesized by artists at the time. And so they could make a lot of other colors, but that blue-green, and it ranges between a very, very blue to a very dark green, depending upon the concentration that's released by the fungus. So wood crafters would go out into the forests and they would look for pieces of wood, and they were usually very small pieces of wood that were very heavily decayed, that were colored by this fungus. And they would go and collect them and then cut little pieces out and do marquetry, which, if you're not familiar, marquetry is when you take very tiny pieces of wood and put them together to make a bigger image. So I'm going to show you some very popular and famous marquetry from Europe first to kind of get us all in the same place. So, we have any people who like marquetry in here? Anyone study in Tarsha? Yeah, okay, one person, that's good. So this is a studiolo from the Ducal Palace in Gubbio. It executed by Giuliano Damiano. So this is from Italy, and it was made between 1478 and 82. It's currently housed at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And so from far away, it doesn't look like much. So again, this is marquetry, very tiny pieces of wood put together to make a big image. It doesn't look like there's a lot of color in it because a lot of the synthetic pigments they used faded over time. And so one of the big neat things about spalting is that spalted pigments don't fade over time. And so we still have as vibrant a blue-green and red and yellow that were originally put into the pieces. So if we zoom in, you can start to see there's a blue-green strip there in the book as a bookmarker. That's from spalted wood. Here you can see on the book as well. And again, so this would have been very brightly colored all over, but the synthetic pigments faded, but the fungal pigment remains. And here's another one. So this is all from that same wall paneling. Here's another example. This is the Scarcity of Santa Maria in Organo, done by Giovanni da Marona. So this is from 1493 to about 99. And so this is a huge row of marquetry. And if we zoom in, here you can see the blue-green spalted wood. It's often used for grass and water and occasionally sky. And if we zoom in again, this piece is like this big. It's blown up. And so you can see the background there on the hills behind the owl. Here's a much bigger use of it. This is a library cupboard done in 1502. And this is actually the artist himself. He did his own picture in Marquetry. So this is him. And he decided to highlight his robes in the blue-green of the spalted wood. And that's Antonio Borelli from 1502. This wood was really heavily used throughout Europe, and it's very, very popular. So popular that a lot of the pieces aren't in museums, and a lot of people don't know they have them. So if you go into pretty much any of the churches that have this old marquetry, you will find just random pieces. So this one is from a pulpit in St. Mary's Church in North Germany, and it was done in 1587. And then you can see the blue-green wood has been used throughout, and especially on the body of the bird. So that's the history of spalted wood. It really evolved in Italy, it moved into Germany, and then spread there. But what happened is the Industrial Revolution came along, and handicrafts just died. And then, completely by accident, a father and son duo in the United States more or less rediscovered spalted wood and popularized it. So if you have any woodturners in the crowd, you may know the names of Mark and Mel Lindquist, who are kind of gods to the wood-turning community in the United States. And they started going into the woods and looking for zone-lined wood, which is, again, another type of spalted wood. And they went and they started doing wood turning. So instead of doing the marquetry that was very, very common in Europe, they turned to lathe work. And they were written up, they have galleries all over. They were in the New York Times. They've got a bunch of pieces stored away as historical artifacts. And they have helped to start bringing sort of a consciousness back into spalted wood. And so right now there's a big disjunct within the world as to what different countries like in terms of spalted wood. In Europe, they still really like the blue-green. In North America, they really like the zone lines, and it varies by region. So our big question here was we had a lot of information about Europe, and we had some information about North America. But I had a lot of students coming to my lab from South America who were really interested in spalting. And so our big question was, why? Do you have a historical link to spalting? It would make sense because South America did have colonization from Europe, so it could have been brought over. But we have absolutely no actual evidence of this. And so what we spent a lot of last year doing was going through Spain, spending a lot of time in Spain, and then moving into Peru, and then this summer we'll be going to Argentina and Chile, and looking for evidence of some type of movement of spalted wood from Europe into South America that's generating this sudden interest we're seeing. So if you go into the jungle and any part of the rainforest in South America, spalted wood is incredibly prevalent. It is everywhere, and they have very vibrant colors, a lot more than we have in North America. Zone lines are everywhere. You could see reds and purples, oranges and greens, and they're very, very common. So it seems likely that it was probably used in native handicraft, but we were completely unable to find any evidence of that. What we did find, however, was quite a bit stored in Spain that never made it over into the colonies. And so the next few pictures are going to be of pieces that we found in Spain. Unfortunately, we were hoping to find Spanish artisans that actually did it themselves. And what we found instead was just a lot of movement more, again, from Germany into Spain. So this is the royal site of San Lorenzo. This is a 5 doors in various salons. It was 1567. But it was done, again, by an Augsburg carpenter and ordered by Philip II. So if we zoom in again, you can start to see the blue-green in some of the leafing. I'm going to zoom in one more time. So it does exist in Spain. That gave us hope that maybe then some of the aristocracy from Spain moved it into Peru. Here's another piece that was found at that same museum. These are door panels from southern Germany, which is now housed in San Lorenzo de el Escorial in Madrid. Zoom in again. A box, this style of marquetry where there's a big box and then there's a bunch of little boxes inside was very, very popular around this time period. So this one is from the Bilbao Fine Arts Museum. So it's 10 drawers and a central drawer, and it was done about the mid-16th century. Here's the top. And again, the leafing is mostly the blue-green elf's cap. And here are the doors. So you're starting to see these doors are really little. They couldn't use really big pieces of spalted wood because it's on decayed wood, so it would just crumble. So Marquetry was one of the only options they had for utilizing it. And here's another box again. So we're going to zoom into this one. This is at the National Museum of Decorative Arts in Madrid. And so again, this is a really big zoom in. You can see the grass is with the blue-green. And birds. Birds were, the parrots especially, were very, very common to be made out of spalted wood. And another bird here. So we found a fair amount in Spain, and then we moved into Peru. And unfortunately, a lot of the stuff we found was imitation spalted wood, which honestly I had never really expected to find. I didn't expect it to be popular enough that people would make fake spalted wood. But that's exactly what I found. So this table is from Spain, and this is false spalting. So if we zoom in, you can kind of see the blue-green color there. But you can see how even it is. This was done by a dye. This is an indigo sulfate reaction. And so this piece probably never saw daylight. If it had, that color would have completely migrated away. And here you can see just how incredibly even it is. That was our big tip-off, that it was not done by a fungus. So let's talk about what we did find in Peru. We did not find a lot of intentional spalting. Surprisingly, this was our one big piece. So this was done by an Irish cabinet maker, which is interesting because we have no record before this of spalting being done or used in Ireland. This was done by an Irish cabinet maker, Arthur Blaine, and it was found in one of the historic houses in Peru that would have had a very large and aristocratic family. It's an example of trading between Peru and the UK, and also really highlights the access to this type of furniture that was only accessible by the upper class. I don't think that people even knew what they had. So you can see the zone lines on this piece of wood. No color, but zone lines. And it was considered a very, very valuable piece. We also found this wardrobe. We don't actually have too much information on it. We know it came to the Cathedral Museum in the late 1800s, but that's about it. It has some white wrought in it. But again, I'm not convinced that these were used on purpose. I think they may have been integrated just because it was wood that they had around. And here's a wider shot. So where does that leave us? We had really hoped to find the link between Europe and South American spalting. We found some unintentional pieces, I think, and nothing really big. So we're going to broaden the search out from Peru into the rest of South America, slowly, country by country. And what I really hope is that we find some native communities that are using it. We've talked to some native wood carvers who know of spalted wood, but not under that name. And so we're hoping to continue gathering information from them to see what they do with it, because they do like it. But as far as we can tell, it doesn't have any type of commercial market in Peru, so they're not using it. And that's the tip of the iceberg on the spalted world.